Welcome to the Mucked Up My Self-Care podcast.
I'm Jill from New York.
And I'm Linda from Tasmania.
We are two moms from opposite sides of the world who are living, demonstrating, and helping moms across the world build their self-care asset bank.
Ready to dive in? Messy, interrupted, imperfect, and most of all mucked up. Let's get going. Good morning.
Oh, good evening, good morning, all the above.
Yes. Half in the dark.
Yes.
just by the glow of a computer screen. It's all good. And with one crazy 1-year-old who just is not loving an early night at the moment. I think she's the last of 4 children to be awake, or just about.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Bedtime is not our favorite time.
No. Anyway, let's go. Highs, lows.
All right. Do you have some? You want me to go first?
You go first.
All right. Hi. Let's see. Where are we at? I am putting a lot of things together, timing wise. I'm just seeing how things are falling into place all over the place. So I'm really excited, like timing on my hormones in my body and how they're falling into place for the things that are coming up. It's like, how did you know that I needed to have energy this week? How did you know that I could manage to get through a low energy week? So, and seeing how my body reflects what is actually coming up, or I could also say God's timing for orchestrating that, in my opinion, in my eyes, is pretty cool. So seeing all these pieces come together, even with Declan having had school vacation, and then like that being the hardest probably I will experience for over the summer, makes me super excited that I might be able to survive the summer with him home if I plan it not strictly, but give myself some ideas ahead of time anyway for things to do. So it's kind of my high. And then my low is we are full force in transitioning to a 4-year-old. Full force. We are like,
oh my gosh.
I don't know if anyone else experiences these weeks of transition for their children going into their next age, but I promise you it is real for my son. Because
yes, I made the mistake of putting the breakfast in the bowl this morning.
Oh gosh.
And he threw it at me.
Oh no. Yeah.
Like, well, you were in the toilet. I was trying to help. It's like, no, I don't need your help.
I thought
I don't want that bowl.
3 was hard, and everyone's like, oh, just wait till you have a three-nager. I loved 3. 3 has been our best year yet. It has been most enjoyable for both of us. 4, I don't know. Do they have a word for 4 yet? Because I'd really like to know what I'm getting myself into, because this transition.
Wait till 8.
He is lying. He is throwing things, and the tantrums are out of this world. And I'm just like, I'm over him. Because then he turns around and he's this cute little kid that I just see growing up, and I'm like, I love you so much. You make me so frustrated. I just want his birthday to come so I can be in a good place.
I love you. I just don't like what you're doing right now.
Yep. There's a lot of that. That's my low. And it'll probably be my low for a few more weeks.
Oh yes.
Where are you?
I'm gonna have a 12-year-old next week, so you know. I am not ready for tweens at all. It's crazy. And she's going to keep pulling my microphone off. Wonderful. All right, let's see how we go. So, highs and lows for me. I can't hear you for a minute because she's pulled my headphones out now. A high would definitely be me getting away for sticky note day yesterday. So I had a day to myself to plan out the next quarter, get out of my head a lot of the stuff that's been rattling around in there, work out what's important in lots of areas, work out the next plan of attack. Did a lot of thinking around the kids and life and all sorts of things like that. And yeah, it was just, quiet times up there on my top 5 activities as well. So just having that quiet time away and alone, yeah, it was pretty special. So definitely beneficial. Probably a low for me is just that 9-year-old age. It's a little challenging at this end sometimes, and just the amount I have to do on my plate this week is quite a lot. It feels a lot. And while I've been smashing through today, I don't know if I can keep up the same momentum and energy for the rest of the week to get it all done. So we'll see how we go. Yes, that's not a very fun sound. Yes. And I don't want that on my mouth either. Yep. Yes. So we will see how we go. Yeah, it will be worth it. Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of places that we go to sort of get away for a bit of self-care and that sort of stuff, today we're going to be talking about places of self-care enjoyment. So thinking about that, what are your first thoughts on that topic?
My first thoughts on this is, how do we find that place that we find enjoyment? Because I love what you were sharing with me before we started recording, and how you had to find different spaces.
Yeah.
Sticking up right. This weekend.
Mm-hmm. I tried lots of different spaces because in little old Tassie, the library isn't open on Sunday.
Yeah.
It's only open for a little bit on Saturday. It's not a regular open down here in the sleepy old town. So, yeah, I did. I had to try about 3 or 4 different places as she shoved an apple in my mouth. So I was going to mention that. Yeah, I had to try different places, and I felt like I spent a bit of time walking around, trekking around, trying to find that place. And then I also thought, geez, I just feel so fussy. I know exactly what I want. I want a comfy chair and quiet. One foyer I went to in a hotel had awful chairs that were just hard as rocks, and another one had no back on it, no back on the chair. It was just a really low back, which was kind of weird. Another one had a open roof, open plan sort of thing. And so it was really echoey and noisy. I was like, no, that's not going to do. Another one had just a lot of people checking in and out in the end. It worked for a few hours and then I had to move. Another one was a bit smelly. Another one had really loud sort of, I don't know, 2000 style sort of music playing. It was very loud. And so I did feel very fussy, but I also knew exactly what I wanted to. So I just wanted quiet. Ideally, I had a desk in front of me, sort of like a table in front of me. And so I found it in the end. I found the perfect spot outside on the pier overlooking the river. It was perfect. And for the last hour, I actually took up your suggestion and went to a cathedral in the city, which had a fair bit of traffic, but it was still really, really cool for that last hour of just reflection and catch up on time. So thank you for that suggestion too.
A little bit of A little bit of quiet that we get to think through some of our thoughts. What was I going to say? I had to do similar with my sticky note time weekends just the weekend before, because in the case of like trying to find where was I going to find some enjoyment in my location, I kind of felt the same way. Like I had tried a Starbucks to go sit down and be quiet, and I was like, okay, this is great. I'll get away from all the loud of at home and go get a coffee and it would be quiet. But I forgot that it was also Saturday afternoon and that whoever else was going to be there. But it was, I thought I'd sit outside. I ended up staying inside and it's like, this is not enjoyable at all. I cannot focus. So I tried outside and it was too cold. So I was like, okay, we're going to hop around and just find other places. And it just felt like I can attempt to plan it out in my head before I go anywhere. Like, okay, here's my plan A, B, and C. And then you just don't know until you show up to find out that it was smelly or it was too busy or the music was just off. And not even just for sticky note time. I feel that that's just all around for any self-care, especially with something that we might want to do, that there are different places that offer a service, we'll say. Like, we want to go get something done like a haircut or a pedicure or a manicure. Sometimes that can take some getting used to a place to find that you enjoy that place or that person that's providing that service. For me with church, I mean, I have my church built in, but like, I don't plan on going anywhere else. But this was the first time you went to a cathedral to sit and reflect for yourself, Linda. Was it the right one? Will there be other ones that you might need to go find? Maybe a different one is more enjoyable for you. So that's what comes to mind with me for this topic of like the trial and error of finding that place that does allow you to really enjoy being in your moment for your self-care. And if it doesn't, not being upset that it didn't work out this time and being okay with trying a new place the next time.
Absolutely. And I also had great plans of how much I could get done that day. And then because I spent a bit of time trying to find the place, it didn't quite happen. But another part of enjoyment, I actually had ice cream as part of my lunch. A Jaffa ice cream, so chocolate orange ice cream, and I got it all to myself without anybody stealing it or licking it or dropping it or biting off the bottom of it or anything. So it was like, yes. Yeah. One thing I would like to think about as well, though, the things that we do for enjoyment now might have been different to what we did for self-care previously. Mm-hmm. And I wonder how we reassess what we enjoy and how to get sort of unstuck from this idea of how it used to look and how it does look now. One thing I was also saying to you before we started recording was I thought back and realised that I do enjoy the library as a place. But because that wasn't an option on the Sunday, I looked a bit further and found out that the university library is actually, you can join as a community lender, like borrower. And then when I rang them, they said just call and then you can get access on the weekends if they just have to tick a box, basically. So that now opens up an option
to
go there instead of at the local library, the public.
Yeah.
So how do you sometimes compare, or do you get frustrated that you can't do the same things for self-care that you used to? What's been your journey with that? Well, I said this little one.
I don't know if I am looking back and wishing to do certain things like I used to. I think I'm more so accepting that there might be a shift that I might actually not need to be doing those other things any longer, versus there's something that's stopping me from enjoying a place specifically, I need to find a different replacement kind of thing. Like the only thing I could think of about that is like getting my nails done. That was always a top 5 for me personally to do that. And I haven't had my nails done in a while, but that isn't because the place that I like to go to isn't around or isn't able to take me. It's because I don't want to spend the money on it. And I'm still trying to determine whether or not I want to play the guitar this year. So getting my nails done prohibits me from playing the guitar because I can't play my guitar with my nails the length that I would like to keep them. So it's this balance of, well, what self-care is the season I'm in what self-care is appropriate for the season I'm in right now, and shifting that out where it will be in my self-care toolbox, we'll say, whenever I'm ready to go back and do that, I will. And that's just not one that I'm finding I need in my toolbox out. Like it's there in my archive in a way. I don't know if that even makes sense, but otherwise, replacements of places, I don't know if I have the same kinds of limits where I live like you have, Linda. And I wonder if we move to a different state, if I'll have those limits then. And trying to find, the library's not open on Sundays. Where do I go then?
It's so funny because there's some places that just like that I would go to that aren't open before 11 a.m. or aren't open after 4 or like it's quite backwards. Yeah. So what are your favourite places
favorite places to go enjoy myself. I am going to say any place with an outside area in the sunshine. So we have so many places to go to enjoy food and beverages, and that's usually where I end up when I'm alone time. And then there's always camping because we have a few campgrounds. So during the summer, I jump on that with my parents because they're gone for the whole summer. And during that season of the year, that's my self-care spots, is to go just sit in a camping chair and not be bothered by humans for a little while.
Yep. Exactly.
And then I think even just my yard, like we talk so much about being out in nature and grounding and getting out for walks and things like that, that I don't particularly enjoy walking around my neighborhood because it's a heavy traffic area. But by the time I get to a campground or something else like that, where I'm able to really enjoy my surroundings, that's where I find myself the best. So that's why I do like my backyard for my grounding, because it's just familiar. I do find enjoyment there. And it's probably my easiest go-to to Unstuck.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a creek that runs only 5-10 minutes away, and there's a big dog area where you can let dogs off, and they also have a rock labyrinth there and a couple of rope swings on the tree for the kids and stuff. So we spend a lot of time down there. And it's pretty amazing because all the wallabies come out at night time and the paddymellons and everything like that. So, yeah, it is literally like our backyard as well. So we've talked about physical spaces and places. What about the emotional stuff and places that we can get stuck in when it's really mucked up? And how do you think the two help each other?
Oh, goodness. I don't know how to answer this question, Linda.
Throwing you a tough one.
Now let's tell a little bit about what happened yesterday. So my husband and I are talking out a lot of things because we're trying to figure out where is Declan going for school next year, because we're at this place that his current school has pre-kindergarten, but do we want to spend the tuition money and paying for him to go to school, or do we switch out if we get in to the universal pre-K system for public schools? And that would save us some money because we wouldn't have a tuition to pay for. And then there's the mix of baby number 2 being thrown in that conversation. And then there's the mix of, are we moving this year, thrown into that conversation. So it's a lot of emotional fatigue going on with trying to figure out all these pieces. And it gets stuck in my head when we don't talk it out loud, because I just sit here and say, well, what is my priority in this? But it's not just me. I have to figure out what my husband's priority is too on this level. Like, how are we doing this? In what order? What do we want? How are we setting ourselves up to be successful in these things? And that can be very overwhelming, especially when it's topped on top of a book launch and speaking events related around that book launch, and the Melty related around finishing said book, and all of the, like, having to do this in a
so similar. It's like, you don't do it by halves, do you?
Like, how do I process all that to begin with?
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, where are my hormones in this? Because does it land on a week where I have my period, and like school holidays on a week that I have my period, and like transitions. And the only way to do it is really talking it out. But unfortunately, half the time that my husband and I are talking it out, we are still with our son, or we are occupied trying to do a self-care activity, like have a date night. And like, do I really want to sit down and have this kind of a talk when we really should be enjoying each other's company, doing self-care date night? Like, real date night? Or is this actually what date night consists of? Having these talks because we're finally alone and can talk. So I think it's a hard thing to process, that emotional aspect of it, to be allowing for energy to come back in when we aren't having the conversations, and just being able to time out our conversations too, because all of it. So I don't know if that answers the question well enough, but man, all of that stuff going on at the same time in our heads, it's like.
And we tend to do it all at once.
Yeah.
When I was married a very long time ago, I had just started a new job. I think I was 2 weeks into a new job, and got married at the same time. And I think moved house as well in the space of about 3 or 4 weeks. So, and I was nowhere near the Mucked Up My Self-Care podcast at that stage. That was hard enough and without children. So, yes, we do tend to do it all at once at times.
Yeah.
Definitely who we are.
This is a great time to go ahead and change your whole entire life around.
Why not? Let's get to a place where we can enjoy self-care once upon a time.
And it was really funny because that was the consensus between my husband and I yesterday, with all the talking that we were having, was like, we think we're in a pretty decent place today. Like, me, hormonally, emotionally, mentally, like, I even noticed it while I was writing my email last week for Mama Outspoken, that like, I have not had a bad rage experience in months since starting really like taking care of the nutrition, following this the flow book protocol kind of thing for my cycle. Like, I've seen huge improvements on how I'm managing my energy input and output, and by going each week based off of the cycle, the phase that my cycle's in, and with the food. And I'm only positive that when I start the fitness aspect of it and really focusing on that, it's going to get improve even more between the self-care podcast, the Mucked Up My Self-Care podcast, and our conversations, all that we're doing. Like, we are just in a good place. So why would it be a good time to make these moves if we're in a good place, individually and in a relationship too? You're watching the pig. Oh, we got all the kiddos.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing that you can recognize that you've got to that place, if you like, as well, because the leaks, I've noticed the leaks getting plugged just quietly, differently, better perhaps from my end. And it's important for us to recognise that we do still have places of self-care enjoyment, and sometimes that's on our own couch or in our backyard or going to a new hotel lobby to escape the children for a while, going for a walk down to the creek. There's all sorts of ways that we can do it. So I think it's great reflection.
Yeah. And I like that it doesn't have to be like we have to go out and spend money at some place to enjoy the places around us, that we can really find it right in our own backyards. Or, like you said, in our own homes. So that's why I like to clean up the house first, because that's where I enjoy things. Clean house.
Find things in places that they shouldn't be. Yeah. Like there was a torch in the bath the other day. Oh, what could go wrong?
I think a lot of what we try to do in order to get good self-care is try too hard. And trying to find those things. But I like that we've kind of stepped back and tried to simplify it for even ourselves as well as for those listening, with like how did we actually really need to start out when we were starting out, and we've kind of tried too hard then also. So we've looked back and came up with a short little list of, you know, some of the easier things that we felt we could have done in our hardest days and the first days of being new moms and stuff. So one of those ideas you came up with, Linda.
Yeah. This is one that I'd overlooked. I think I was doing it with the older boys and then sort of forgot about it as they got older, and then just started doing it now with the younger two again. And it's just going outside and picking flowers with them. And sometimes they'll pick a whole heap of weeds or grass or like anything they can find. But it's just being able to go outside and watch them as they see bees and butterflies and bugs, or maybe it's mud, and look at the clouds, or like there's lots of benefit to just remembering to do that one simple thing. It's like the branches that come off that.
Yeah. So what does it lead to? A whole world of opportunity when you're out picking flowers.
Exactly. Exactly.
And potentially a new place for you to enjoy your self-care.
Yeah. It's just very sweet. It's very memorable for them. They often ask to do it now. So it's really nice to see. So if you would like suggestions like that, we as Jill said, we have put a bit of a list together and would love you to shoot us an email to start up a conversation and really find out a little bit more about other things that you might have overlooked or forgotten as older kids get older or younger kids come along, or all sorts of things like that. So the email is in the show notes. It's muckedupmyselfcarepodcast@gmail.com, and we'd love to hear from you, of course, because it's always wonderful to make that connection between this side of the microphone and the other as well. So, well, this little one is pretty much almost asleep. So until next week,
I hope you can unstuck your mouth.
All right, bye for now.